All right. So I was going to do a video first about some of the best writing advice ever given to me. And I was like, you know what? I'll do that one. I'll do that one, the next one, because some of the worst writing advice given to me, I think, is pertinent. Because I'm reading a couple of things right now on a couple of different places, and people are giving advice. And they're giving advice regardless of the writing skills of somebody. They're giving advice regardless of the genre, which I think is very important, and other things like that. And for me, just going through these this morning, I was getting annoyed, and I'm not going to jump in, but someone's like, "Oh, I've written this, I wrote this romance, and now I'm looking, to sell it, blah blah blah," and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I sell a million print copies of my books, which are, fantasy or science fiction, whatever. So that's what you need to do." Like all these just random ideas, because it works for you doesn't mean it's going to work for somebody else. Especially if it's somebody like, "Oh, I also write romance and these are the things I do," then you know what? Maybe that's some advice you want to look at. You think, you know what, if this person can do it, they write in the same genre, especially if it's the same subgenre, then you know what? I am going to maybe look at some of this advice. I am going to see if it makes sense for me. You also got to look at where their career is. You also got to look at how many books. There's so many other things. So some of the worst writing advice ever, the one that always gets me, and I think people take it out of context. It's the write what you know. That doesn't mean to me. That doesn't mean, oh well, I sell shoes, so I can only write books about a shoe salesman. Or well, I grew up in the suburbs, so I can only write about this. I don't know anything about a city. I can't write this. I've never been out of my town, so I can't write about anything else in the entire world. No. Write what you know is write what you've researched, write what you are comfortable with, write things. And I'm not talking about like if you're going to write fantasy, then you know what, you probably don't really know a dragon or a goblin or a whatever. But you learn about those things. You know what I'm saying? So that's, to me, a really bad writing advice is always only write what you know. Okay. I've written about many places that had never been to at the time. And people were like, "Oh, this is really good." I've also written about places that I've been to a billion times, and people are like, "Well, he's never been to Miami." Well, I have been to Miami. That's the Miami that I learned about, that I know. So that's really awful advice. Another one of awful advice to me is when people say, don't read too much in your genre or subgenre, because then you're going to end up stealing ideas from it subconsciously. And I think that's a load of hooey. Sorry for the strong language. You need to understand your genre, your subgenre. You need to understand what you're doing. That would be it would make no sense for me to go, I'm going to write crime thrillers, but I'm never going to read a crime thriller because I don't want to steal Raymond Chandler's ideas. I don't want to steal C.W. Blackwell, S.A. I don't want to steal any of these people's ideas, so I'm not going to write any of this stuff. Come on. You got to learn it. You got to know what you're writing. You have to be a fan of the genre or the subgenre that you're writing. I mean, I think that's equally important, right? So to say, "Oh, don't read anything in your genre. You've read enough. You know you like it. Now read something else." No, that's a dumb thing. Um, Also, bad. I guess it's not bad writing advice. It's just common sense when people are like, "Yeah, I don't really read anymore. I'm just too busy writing. I write 14 straight hours a day, and I don't have the time to read anything." Well, then you're going to be stuck in where you are. your skills are not going to get any better. You're not going to learn anything. You're not going to add anything to what you're writing. Um, it's not really writing advice. I think it's just a dumb thing to do, to be honest with you. Again, sorry for the bad language. Um, so those are like just a couple of things off the top of my head, like bad writing advice. I've also I was going through somebody where they were today they were talking about internal dialogue, and another it's a newer author, and they were like, "What's your take on having internal dialogue?" Um, the thoughts of characters, because another author who I guess is more experienced told them that don't do it. Don't use internal dialogue. It's lazy. That's basically what the quote was that I read. Like, how is that lazy? It just moves. It's moving the character. Write whatever you want to write. Number one, write any way you want to write it. There's all these writing rules, and rules are made to be broken. And some of the greatest stories ever are because they broke those rules. The Road by Cormac McCarthy is a great example off the top of my head. When you start reading that book, you're like, what is going on here? Where's the quotation marks? Where's anything? But you know what? It works. And you know why it works? Because it's a good book. Don Winslow is great at jumping from head to head within a chapter, within a couple of paragraphs. But you know what? He's such a damn good, fine writer. Again, sorry for the language. That he's jumping from head to head, and you understand that as a reader where we're going. You understand who's talking. You understand whose head we're currently in, and it works. It just works. So don't get wrapped up in the rules of writing. Don't get wrapped up in these are the things that you need to do to make a good book, blah, blah, blah. No. And don't go, well, I guess I can't have internal dialogue. I guess I can't use italics in this book. I write a lot of stories where there is blah, 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 Bob thought, because it moves the story along. You want to, as a reader, you want to know what these people are thinking, or else, you know what? Or else read a screenplay. If you don't want the internal dialogue, then read a screenplay, I guess, because you're not going to get a lot of it there, because that doesn't translate well to a movie unless you have like a voiceover, something like that. So that's one of the other things for me. That's the, writing advice is it should be advice. It should not be, well, you're doing it this way, so we're not going to read this and blah, blah. Shut up. We're writers. We're creative. We're supposed to do things that are creative. If you're a painter, it's like somebody coming to you and going, listen, you can only use primary colors. No, don't be mixing colors. Don't get anything crazy here. Primary colors is the only thing you're allowed to use, and you're only allowed to use this specific paintbrush, and you're only allowed to use this specific canvas, and you're only allowed to use this specific whatever. And it's like, why are you limiting creative people for what we can or we cannot do? I'm not a fan of that at all. Listen, I've read a ton of really awful books and stories over the years. We all have. But never, off the top of my head, never once did I go, oh, this would have been a great story if they'd only followed the rules. If they had only, made sure they did it this way or this way. That doesn't make any sense. It's a good story. Or it's a bad story. I read tons of stories where the writing is off on purpose, where it's let's try something. Let's get fancy with something. Let's do something different, And for me, that's, I don't know, it makes it interesting. If I'm like, hey, there's a, this is in first person, this is in ninth person, whatever. I want to read a good story, and I'm not, a lot of readers are like, I don't read anything in first person because I think that's lazy. I don't. I've written a lot of books in first person. I've written a lot of books in third person. I've written a lot of books through another person, through osmosis. No, I don't know what that even means. So for me, writing advice. Okay, so I've been doing this, in case you didn't know, because I haven't said it in 5 billion other videos. 30 plus years I've been doing this. I was published in 1988. A short story that is It's awful. I think. I don't think it's a good short story. But again, I'm 18 years old, and I've been writing a lot of junk at that point. You can actually find that story on my first short story collection. But I'm not proud of. I'm not proud of that. I knew what the structure was supposed to be, and I wish some of my earlier stuff had been a little more creative, a little more. Let me not go beat, act one, act two, act three, that kind of thing. Okay, we need this now, we need this now, we need this now. I learned to write something different. I have books where it's like in the point of view of 20 different characters, and some people don't like them. Some people are like, I don't, some people it's in one character's head throughout the whole series. It's just what I want to write about, what I think works. And I don't really take a ton of writing advice from other authors anymore. I've taken a ton of bad advice from authors before. I've taken advice on. I had an author once tell me, this is about 15 years ago or so, right when I started getting into writing full time and able to make money of this. I was making money, and they basically critiqued my first 4 or 5 books covers. They were not good covers. I'm just going to say it. They were not good covers, but it wasn't. The problem was they weren't. They were in genre, but they just weren't good covers. I went cheap. I had no money. And I had somebody who was like, I'll do covers. And I was like, okay, do some cover. And they did covers. And I was like, all right, you know what? It's good enough. And I paid you hardly anything for them. And these are going to be my covers. The author wasn't saying, oh, you need to change these covers because they're not on brand. They were saying, it's zombie books. Yeah, you don't need a zombie on the cover. You need all these other weird things that had nothing to do with my book, nothing to do with the covers. And they were insistent that if I did this, then I would sell way more books and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't even back then. I was like, that doesn't sound right. You got to be, we're not reinventing the wheel here with any of this. Writing has been around for a long time. And, there's no such thing as a new story. It's not. You're just writing your version of a story, or your version of parts of stories, however you want to call it. And it's the same with the covers. I mean, you look at the top 10 books, top 100 books in your subgenre, and you're like, oh, there's a pattern here. I'm doing covers, and I'm like, this is what I want. So basically, when I get a cover done, I'm like, I know what it has to look like. And I have no problem with that, because I want a reader to look at that list and not go, well, this one doesn't make any sense. This one's not right. They're not going to buy that when they're going to go, well, this person has no idea what genre they're supposed to be in, because that looks like another genre and whatnot. So for me, it's bad advice to tell somebody, another author. Now, maybe you're trying to help. Maybe it's not coming from a place of, I'm not I'm trying to word this. There's some authors that have been around for a long time, like I have. Authors that maybe had a huge career in the 80s or the 90s with traditional publishing. And now that traditional publishing has turned their back on them. Now that traditional publishing is saying, yeah, we want the young kids. We want something new. We don't want your 36th book. And then the small presses are like, yeah, we don't, not interested. Instead of going, well, maybe I can self-publish. Their advice is, don't self-publish. That means you're an awful writer and blah, blah, blah. Because of their own feelings. I'm not going to say their feelings are wrong, but when you start to push that on other writers, especially new writers, and you say self-publishing is awful, self-publishing is the devil, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's good advice. My advice is always, hey, if you think you can handle it, if you are a micromanager and you come up with the covers and you've come up with this and that, and you can legitimately pay an editor, you can legitimately get this book formatted properly, and you can upload it to Amazon and Kobo and Barnes and Noble, wherever you're going to put this book, and it's going to be you and you alone. Go for it. I did it. I've done it for over 100 books now. But don't just go, well, I can't self-publish. I'm going to look for an agent for the next 10 years and not write another book. And I've seen that a million times too, where I've seen authors from 10 years ago that they're still writers. They're still talking about being a writer, but they're not actually writing. They've never written another book because they're still pushing this one book from like 10 years ago. I think that's crazy. And I know more than one of them, I think, is also the problem. It's not like, well, that's a one-off. No, that's quite a few. It's for me, I've done everything wrong there is to do in this business over the years. So I talk a lot from experience. I listen to the naysayers. I listen to the ne'er-do-wells. I listen to the people that I thought were trying to help, and then you realize maybe they weren't trying to help. Maybe I was doing really well, better than them at that point. Maybe there's jealousy there. Maybe they just don't honestly understand what I'm writing, and the readers that will hopefully read me. So I think that's a big thing as well for me. I'm sure there's a million other examples of bad writing advice I could give you. Just be smart. Think of a couple things. When somebody approaches you unsolicited, especially, and says, "Oh, you should do this," I immediately go, who is this person? Where are they in a career? Do they even have a writing career? What examples can they give of why they've done it? Are they leading by example, or are they just telling you, don't work with a small press? You could do all that work yourself. That's always a big one too. Well, you know what? Not everybody can find an editor. Not everybody can format. Not everybody can hire a cover artist. Not everybody can find beta readers and all these other things that you need to get done. Not everybody is good at all of those things, because as a writer, you wear about 47 different hats. People don't realize that. They're like, I just write a book and then I make millions of dollars. And I wish that was the case. So if you know your weaknesses, that you can't do all those things, and for a long time I couldn't do all those things, then you got to look at it and you got to go, you know what? Do I learn this stuff? Do I take the time to learn these things? Do I take the time to ask questions? Do I find out if I can find a good editor? Because another worst advice is, what? It's your story. You should edit it. No, you shouldn't edit it, because your brain reads what they think is there. And so a lot of times I'll be like, you know what? And I read a clean first draft. I do. But then I will read it out loud and I'm like, oh my, this sounds awful. I'm tripping over words here. Oh, there's a typo. Oh, I've used this word 5 times in this chapter already, whatever it is. So then I'll rewrite those parts. And then an editor will find stuff I'm like, I had no idea that was wrong, because my brain had read it as a complete sentence, and it's not a complete sentence. So there's a lot of things that you as a writer need to be aware of and need to do. And again, you might go, you know what? I'm comfortable just writing a good book, doing a self-edit on it, and then giving it to a publisher. And then that publisher finds an editor, and then that editor rips it apart and makes it a better book. And that's fine. You know what I mean? If that's your thing, then that's it. I'm not here to argue with that. The worst advice is when people tell you, don't do that, or definitely do. No, don't try to find a big 5 publisher. Don't try to work with small presses. You need to do it yourself. The only way you're going to make money is self-publishing. Well, that's also wrong. It depends on your genre, your subgenre. It depends on you as a writer. If you're working with big five publishers, for instance, they want a book a year from you. That's it. A book a year. That's still for whatever stupid reason, that's still the way we do things. Okay, so it's slow. It's a snail's pace. When I put out Dirty Deeds through Kindle Press, they wanted the second book a year later, and I'm like, I'm already writing the third book. I'm almost done with a third book here. No, I want to do 2 books a year just in this just in this series. I mean, I'm putting out 8 to 10 to 12 books a year in various things. I don't want to put out a book a year. I understand. Again, I understand if I ever get a big 5 publishing contract, that's what they want, and then that's fine. Then it's already built in. I already understand the way. But to say to yourself, I'm only going to write 1 book, and then I'm just going to I'm going to try to get this book out, or as a self-published author, and go, I'm only going to write 1 book a year. It might work for you. I'm not saying it won't. That won't work for me. That won't work mentally for me. That I've written 1 book and I have many, many other things to read. So figure it out. If anybody's giving you advice, figure out who they are, where they're coming from. Are they giving you good advice? Do you think they're giving you good advice or any advice because they care about you, because they care about your career, because they want you to succeed, or is there a hidden agenda there? It's always what is it? The rising ships thing. You know what I'm talking about. And it's always, other authors aren't our competition. No reader reads 1 book a year and they're going to buy your book, they're not going to buy this. No, most readers are going to read, I don't know, a book a week, 50 books a year, maybe. So you got a chance that if they like your genre and they know who you are and you're genuine, blah blah blah, then maybe they'll read your book, one of your books, and then they're going to love it and they're going to read all your books. That's what we're looking for. You get those authors though that really do believe that, if he reads, my book is kind of like his. If the reader reads that book, they're not going to read my book. I'm losing sales here. That's just dumb. Again, sorry for the language. So there you go. That's some of the worst writing advice given to me, and just in general, some of the worst writing advice out there. I will do a video on the best writing advice. Maybe I'll actually write a list down or something. I don't know. This is me, this is me being lazy. I'm not feeling all that well today, to be honest with you, as I'm recording this. Just kind of an off day for me. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. Give me a comment. Let me know some of the worst advice you've ever gotten. I want to know. If you have any questions of things that you want me to talk about in future videos, let me know. Also, I will put my Amazon on the bottom, so you can go buy all my books, even the ones with bad covers. Doesn't matter to me. Still the same money. If it's a bad cover, if it's the greatest cover you've ever seen, I'm still getting paid the same amount of money coming out on it. All right. I appreciate you. I appreciate you watching all of my videos. I do. I appreciate this. So thank you very much, and I will see you again.